Okay, TLS 150 Leisure Time Interview assignment. To begin, establish your name, age, occupation, and education level.
My name is William E. Bassett. I am the Chief Commercial Officer for Wanda Incorporated. We are a healthcare software company specializing in predictive analytics that improves doctors' ability to care for patients. I am 53 years old. I have a Bachelor's of Business Administration and Marketing from George Washington University. I have a minor follow-up degree in database analytics.
Okay. What is your relationship status, number of children, and what's the last one? And religion.
I am married to a lovely wife named Kathy. She is a consultant for hospice at CMS, which is the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. She's spent 20 years actually serving as an executive director, managing home health and hospice agencies. I have 3 wonderful children. The youngest is Lucia, who is a sophomore at Ballard High School in the biotech program. I have my middle son, and I have my oldest son.
Okay.
And is that it?
Yeah. All right, next. Question 1. What do you do for work, and what is your daily schedule or weekly schedule typically like?
So my position, I'm responsible for the sales team, the business development team, the account management team, and the marketing teams. And as an executive, I'm also in charge for building budgets, for overseeing some of the HR work, for managing our contract relationships with our vendors and suppliers. So that's an awful lot of work that needs to get done. I'm also on our executive committee and our executive board and our compensation committee. So during the day, I spend a fair amount of time doing all kinds of things. Part of my day is involved on the sales side, where I'm either hiring new people, I'm training new staff, I'm teaching them how to best present our products or solutions to customers. I sometimes sit in on meetings, maybe on second or third sales calls to move the prospect forward in wanting to buy our applications, getting to understand and build that relationship bridge between what they're doing, how we help them solve their problems, and really building that forward relationship. I spend at my time, at my level, an awful lot of effort with the C-suite, the CEO, the CEO, Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Medical Officer, and others of healthcare organizations, trying to understand the pain points they have, the issues and the problems, and then addressing how our solution can help solve those problems, helping them improve patient care, reduce their costs, and overall better follow the quadruple aim. Another one of my charges is responsibility for account management. And we have several accounts that are our customers, have been our customers for several years. Part of what we do is I go in and I work with our account teams to understand, again, the challenges, the problems that the customers are facing. Are they using our systems and solutions correctly? Is there ways for us to figure out how to help them not only increase the use of our solution, which if they increase the use of our solution should increase the number of people and the amount of revenue that we're bringing in, but also helps to improve their overall scores and outcomes, making us a more viable part of their program. The last thing that I spend a lot of time doing is working on budgets. I run the marketing team, and so we're constantly looking to find the ROI of our marketing programs that are feeding into lead generation programs for the sales team, building brand awareness for the overall corporate structure and for the entity of Wanda, and then looking to further our business development relationships with third-party entities who can help us provide better quality at lower costs in our application development.
Okay. Question 2. How many hours per week do you spend at work, or do you work?
I spend a fair amount of time working. We are a small organization, and as I said, I have a pretty broad base set of responsibilities. So my average day probably is about 10 hours per day. and it fluctuates between 10 and maybe 14 hours a day, depending on the day of the week, what my schedule looks like, what I'm doing. A lot of times I travel to go visit customers. I travel to go talk to prospective customers. So, on the high side, it's probably 15 hours.
Okay. Question number 3. How many hours do you usually have for leisure time during the week?
Unfortunately, I never have enough time for leisure hours. It seems like I'm spending more time doing work every single day. But I try to at least carve out one hour a week for leisure time. And I say leisure time, for me, that includes things like going for a paddle or going for a run or maybe going for a workout. Sometimes it's maybe just going out to dinner with some friends. On the weekends, I try to spend much more time leisurely, at least half the day doing leisure activities. But during the week, I try to at least do 1 hour a day.
Okay. Question 4. How do you typically spend your leisure time during the week?
Well, during the week, if it depends on kind of where I am. If I'm at home in Seattle, I'll go for a run. Maybe I'll go to the gym and go for a workout. Maybe I'll go for a walk. Sometimes I'll go for a walk out to a dinner and then walk back home. I would consider part of my leisure activity is cooking. I really enjoy cooking, and so a lot of times I spend time after a walk. I'll make dinner for our family, and so for me, cooking is a really enjoyable leisure time. Trying new recipes, learning new techniques, and just sitting down to dinner with my family and really having an incredible time, listening to how their day was, and just getting to make sure that we're stay connected as a family.
Okay. What about on the weekends?
Well, the weekends are a whole different thing. I really try to carve out the afternoon, at least the afternoons of both days on Saturday and Sunday, to spend time either with my family if they're around, or doing things by myself or my wife. Again, it depends on who's around and where we are. I'm a big soccer fan. And so usually at least for 2 hours out of every weekend, I'm watching my favorite soccer team, Manchester United, go Reds, play their game. So that's enjoyable. Usually it's very early because it's an English Premier Soccer game, so it's usually pretty early in the day. So I may wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, get a cup of coffee, and sit back and just turn the computer and watch the Red Devils play soccer. Then I'll get up, go for a run, again, go for a lift, maybe go for a paddle, maybe go for a mountain bike. If it's wintertime, go for a ski, and just do some good things. Okay. If it's the kids around, we'll go do something fun. We always try to do things on holidays, go pumpkin picking, getting Christmas trees, do all kinds of great stuff. As I said before, I am Catholic, and so we follow the Christian holidays and want to make sure we're getting, staying aligned with all of those holidays as well.
Okay. Question 5. How much time do you spend using social media, texting, or other apps during a normal day?
During a normal day, I spend a fair amount of time using the different kinds of social media apps for different parts of work and personal. Obviously, I'm texting my kids and my family on a pretty regular basis. I probably spend, we'll call it an hour a day, maybe texting everybody that that are family and friends and some work colleagues. The rest of the time on apps, I probably spend another 45 minutes on various apps, getting information and news throughout the day. So we'll call it probably on average maybe an hour and 45 to 2 hours a day.
Okay. Question number 6. What do you do when you have more extended time off? So say if you went on vacation or just had a day off from work, what would you do?
Well, if I was going to go on a vacation, I really enjoy exploring. And if I'm going on vacation with my family, it's a little bit different than if I'm going on vacation by myself or just me and my wife. But we all like to explore and get different experiences. So with the family, we like to go to Hawaii and stay in different places, maybe in Canada, or go hiking, or maybe go backpacking or camping. If it's with my wife, we love to explore different countries. We've been to London. We've been to Greece. We've been to, obviously, Canada and South America, and really just enjoy all that really great kind of experience.
Okay. What question are we? 7? What places or where do you like to go when you have leisure time?
I like to go. My favorite places to go for leisure time on my own. Again, it kind of depends on what I'm doing. If it's leisure time and I'm an extended leisure time, really enjoy exploring new areas. I at the moment, I've been pretty fascinated with the whole Mediterranean island area. Been to Santorini and other parts of Greece, look at other islands up there. If you come around the inside of the Mediterranean, there's the coast of Croatia and that southern area as well, which is pretty interesting. I just like the lifestyle. I think the people are fantastic, even though we may not speak the same language and may be having a hard time conversing. It's interesting when you just are able to kind of relax and just, absorb their culture and try to understand the people that are there. It's very refreshing. So those are the kind of things we like to do. I also love exploring places like London and going to all the different, the museums that are there and all the different cultural items that they have in those places are great. The history, the heraldry of countries that are far older than the United States are really just pretty incredible.
Okay. Question 8. What are some of your favorite places you have traveled to before?
Well, for work, I've had the great pleasure of going to Hong Kong, to mainland China, to Australia, to New Zealand, to the UK, to South America, and to Canada. And I have to say that in all those places, they were all different. The people were pretty friendly, and I'm in healthcare. And so what's interesting is that while there's different reimbursement models for healthcare and different approaches to healthcare, all the countries are trying to do the exact same thing, which is provide great healthcare at a manageable kind of cost for all the families that are in their particular country. I have to say that Hong Kong was very interesting because it was a very progressive country, yet had a lot of incredibly historical cultural connotations to it. When I went to China was interesting because it was completely foreign. I had no idea what to expect. I was in the manufacturing district for quite a bit, and while I was in the manufacturing district, we were walking around in smog, and we saw, the rich to the rich and the poorest to the poor right next to each other all over the place. So it was a very interesting cultural difference. I had time in the factories, and you take a look at the factories in China compared to the United States, and the safety regulations, comparatively speaking, aren't even close. So it's just a different culture and a different way of doing business. Australia was a very interesting and different approach to the whole thing, as well as was New Zealand. From a personal point of view, again, I love Europe. I think Europe is fantastic. I love spending time where there's not a lot of people that are around, where we can really get into the culture, try to pretend we're as close to being local as possible, and really get to see what it's like to be living in that country as opposed to just touristing through the country, looking and trying to find time to, absorb the architecture and structure and culture of the organization, the foods. And again, I love to cook, so trying to pick up new cooking techniques as well.
Okay. Question 9. What leisure activities do you enjoy doing by yourself?
So by myself, from a leisure activity point of view, I really enjoy paddleboarding. We have a house in Lake Chelan, which is a beautiful place 3 hours east of Seattle, in the middle of central Washington. So I love to paddle on the lake. I love to go boating, particularly like to go boating on the lake. I love to hike. I love to backpack. I love to camp. Skiing is one of my favorite things to do. There's great places to ski all over Washington State, although I've skied all over the country, and I want to actually extend that as one of my potential trips here over to Europe to go skiing. I love to mountain bike, and again, my passions is cooking. So I have a pretty wide program of physical activity as well as cooking activity, and then lastly, I think music is one of my other favorites as well.
Okay. Question 10. What kinds of leisure activities do you do with your friends?
So with my friends, we do a couple things. We have friends of a bunch of different age ranges. Some are younger, some are older. The younger skiing with and mountain biking and running and do kind of more competitive things. With some folks that are a little bit older, I like to do things that are, and we like to do things that are a little bit different. Up in Chelan, we love to go to wineries. There are 43 wineries that are there. We're members of some of the wineries, and a lot of them have music on the weekend. So they have we can go and sit back and have some wine, maybe some food, and listen to some great music and have some great conversation, and just kind of hear about how everybody's doing, how our children are doing, and talk politics and talk, maybe sometimes religion. And this past summer we talked about how bad the fires were and the smoke, and how everybody hated the smoke and the smell of the campfires all around. So it kind of depends.
Okay. Let's see. Question 11. When you have leisure time or you're not in a rush, what kinds of food do you like to eat or cook?
I love to eat and cook all kinds of stuff. I love to try new things. I love to cook new things. Now, not every my family likes to try new things that I cook, but they've been pretty good about trying different stuff. Part of the reasons I love going to other countries is that I love to see what they're cooking. When I go to restaurants, especially different cultural fairs, I love to talk to the chefs about what they're making, how they're making it. I like to embrace their ideas and extend them into things that I'm doing. I'm a cook who doesn't really look at recipes. I maybe look at an idea of a recipe and then make my own adjustments to it. I cook by flavors and by taste and by smells, and love to create things that are unique kind of pieces of artwork for each individual person. So those are probably one of my favorite things.
Okay. Next question. What is the most amazing or unique leisure activity you have ever done?
Which question is this? Okay.
Question 12. My bad.
All right. No worries. I would say probably the most unique thing I've ever done, and I've had the great fortune of doing a lot of things, is years ago I was really into mountaineering. I spent an awful lot of time training for mountaineering, and mountaineering is where you go out and you climb mountains that have snow on them, and you use crampons and ice axes, and you climb to the tops of these things. And I went through several schools for mountaineering training, and I had the great pleasure of summiting Mount Rainier a couple times and summiting Mount Baker once or twice here as well, and attempting a few other mountains around. And that was really interesting because as you work with a team, you are put together a bunch of people who have similar skills, but you don't know each other, and you have to rely on your skills to begin to build a trust that you're going to, as a team, be able to summit this mountain and go up and down it and deal with all kinds of adverse events that happen and protect each other's life. So that mountaineering was a great way to take a lot of the team building skills and personal accomplishments and wrap them together in a great outdoor experience.
Okay. When doing a leisure activity, are there any types of constraints during those activities that might not want you to do it anymore? This could be like structural constraints, so that contains like timing, money, etc.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things that I love to do from a leisure point of view. One of my my bucket list things to do is to go skiing, heli-skiing up in the Canadian Rockies. And unfortunately, the cost of heli-skiing for a week up in the Canadian Rockies is probably about, last I looked, was about $8,000 for the week. That's an awful lot of money to do a bunch of skiing out of a helicopter when I'm doing it by myself. And I really want to do it, but, skiing, and I have a great time doing some other stuff as close as we get. So that's probably the one thing that's on there that is a big constraint.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for the interview, by the way.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
All right. Hey, bye.
Bye.